The anime begins with a high school student named Kaito. So, Kaito isn't a professional explorer cause he's just part-time. This is because Kaito's power is only good enough to hunt weak monsters. One of the monsters he always hunts is the slime. At that time, Kaito makes a lot of money from hunting slimes. One day, he found a special gold slime, which was stronger than the usual slimes. Kaito used his best weapon and managed to defeat the gold slime. At first, he was confused why he didn't level up. Then, he realized that the device he was using didn't count his performance, even though he bought the weapon for a lot of money. Even though Kaito didn't level up, he wasn't sad. He knew he could sell the items from the gold slime and hoped to make more money than usual. As Kaito got closer to where the gold slime was, he saw a gold card. On the back of the card, there was a picture of a Valkyrie. According to legends, Valkyries are powerful half-gods. Kaito was excited because he found a rare servant card. He thought he could sell it for a lot of money. After finishing his hunt, Kaito went to the administration room. There, he met Hitsugaya, the woman in charge of helping adventurers. She gave Kaito the money he earned from hunting slimes and sent it to his account. Instead of selling the card right away, Kaito asked Hitsugaya how much a servant card would be worth. Hitsugaya told him that rare items like servant cards could be sold for around 1 billion yen. Kaito was amazed by this huge amount of money. On his way home, Kaito met his classmates Shinji and Hayato. They chatted and got on the train together. In the past, Shinji, Hayato, and Kaito used to explore dungeons together. But after a tough fight with goblins, Shinji and Hayato decided to quit, leaving Kaito as a part-time explorer. Even though Shinji and Hayato wondered why Kaito never leveled up and only hunted slimes after all these years, Kaito didn't give a clear answer. He just said he had a special reason for focusing on hunting slimes. The next day, Kaito was on his way to school when he bumped into his beautiful neighbor and classmate named Haruka. As they walked to school together, Haruka mentioned that she saw Kaito near the dungeon yesterday. Hearing that, Kaito quickly lied, saying he was at a boys' party with Shinji and Hayato. Just then, Shinji and Hayato showed up, so Kaito made a plan to keep the lie going. Shinji and Hayato played along, and Haruka believed them. She felt relieved that Kaito wasn't at the dungeon. During class, Kaito couldn't stop thinking about the 1 billion yen. He was torn between selling the card or using it. After school, Kaito went to the dungeon and found a spot away from the cameras to use the servant card. He decided not to sell the rare item. When he used the card, a half-god creature appeared and greeted Kaito in a surprising way. Kaito thought he was being crushed by the creature's big hands. Soon after, he saw a little girl named Sylphie in front of him. Kaito was shocked because he thought Sylphie, in her little girl form, was just an ordinary soldier. He regretted using the card and losing the chance to get 1 billion yen. But then, Kaito saw how powerful Sylphie was. She explained that her combat power was 17 times greater than Kaito's. However, every time she used her great power, she would get very hungry and needed monster cores to eat. Kaito realized he would have to find monster cores to keep Sylphie strong. After Sylphie ate and was ready to work again, Kaito realized it wasn't efficient to use her in battles all the time. So, he decided to let Sylphie track the slimes using her special skill to find monster coordinates, while Kaito would do the fighting. Soon after, they worked together during the hunt and managed to collect many monster cores, which Kaito could sell. When they left the dungeon, Hitsugaya was amazed at how many monster cores Kaito had. There, Kaito didn't tell her about Sylphie's help. He just said he got really lucky that day, so he earned much more money than usual from selling the monster cores. That night, Kaito dreamed about Haruka's father named Katsuragi, who was a hero for conquering the dungeon. Inspired by his achievements, Kaito decided he wanted to be like him. To reach his dream, Kaito changed his goal. With Sylphie by his side, he decided to explore the second floor of the dungeon. His new target was goblins, the monsters that had once defeated him, and he also wanted to uncover the dungeon's mysteries like Katsuragi did. When they entered the second floor, Kaito was still scared from his past encounter with goblins. He turned pale and his body shook, but he didn't tell Sylphie about his fear because he felt embarrassed. After exploring for a long time, Sylphie found goblins. Kaito felt scared and wanted to go home, saying he had other things to do. But then he remembered how Katsuragi became a hero. Pushing away his fears, Kaito decided to face the goblins. Seeing the goblins made Kaito even more scared, so he asked Sylphie to fight them. When Sylphie was about to use her power, Kaito found his courage and decided to face the goblins alone. Soon after, the battle began, but Kaito wasn't good at fighting. He used insect repellent on the goblins, which hurt their eyes. At the same time, he tried to attack with his wooden sword. Then, Kaito almost tripped and fell, but this mistake helped him defeat the goblins. Afterward, he went from being known as a slime slayer to a goblin slayer. Kaito's level increased, and he felt happy and touched because he had struggled to level up while hunting slimes. Fighting goblins changed his level quickly. Sylphie was happy for Kaito. Kaito got a new skill from conquering his fear and defeating the goblins alone. This skill boosted his status by 10% when fighting goblins. However, it was a temporary skill with decreasing effects, so it wasn't as strong as a permanent one. Kaito and Sylphie then worked together to hunt goblins. Thanks to their teamwork, Kaito's temporary skill increased, and he managed to collect 4 goblin cores. Long story short, Hitsugaya was impressed with Kaito's progress. However, Kaito's body was sore from exploring the second floor of the dungeon, so he woke up late. His mom told him not to work too hard. On his way to school, Haruka suspected that Kaito had been in the dungeon. Kaito quickly said he was just doing hard physical training, which made his body sore. Haruka commented that Kaito wasn't suited for such tough training, and he agreed to take it easier. During break time, Kaito told Shinji and Hayato that he had fought goblins on the second floor yesterday. His friends were shocked, remembering how they were once badly beaten by goblins. There, Kaito insisted he was telling the truth and said he planned to explore the third floor, making his friends think he was crazy. After school, Kaito and Sylphie went to the dungeon. They entered a new area Kaito had never visited before. Despite this, Kaito was eager to hunt goblins. Turns out, their hunt was successful, but it left Kaito exhausted. He even fell asleep during lessons, worrying Haruka, who suspected Kaito was involved in dungeon activities. Later, after school, Kaito and Sylphie went goblin hunting again, and Kaito reached level 12. He was very happy with his achievement and praised Sylphie. However, Kaito was surprised by how much his status had increased. He realized it was thanks to a blessing from God, which boosted his status every time he leveled up. This blessing was given to people loved by God. Excited by this discovery, Kaito felt grateful. He thanked Sylphie because the blessing was due to her presence and feelings, as she was from a nation of gods. Shortly after, Kaito and Sylphie continued exploring the second floor of the dungeon and came across a glowing skeleton. After a tough fight, Kaito defeated the skeleton and found that its core was red. He gave the core to Sylphie, who was delighted by how delicious it was. At that time, Kaito realized the red core must be very valuable. When he returned and asked Hitsugaya, she confirmed that the red core was worth over 1 million yen. Kaito felt sad because he couldn't sell the red cores, but he knew his success was thanks to Sylphie. The next day, Kaito asked Sylphie to let him fight alone. Sylphie felt sad, thinking she wasn't needed anymore. Kaito explained that she was very important to him and like a sister. He wanted to fight alone to train his strength because he planned to enter the third floor of the dungeon. Soon after, a goblin appeared, and Kaito fought it. Without Sylphie's help, he was defeated and injured. He had to spend a lot of money on expensive healing potions. Kaito realized he needed to prepare better, but this required a lot of money and monster cores for Sylphie. So, he decided to return to the first floor to hunt slimes. Shinji and Hayato were surprised when Kaito told them this at school. In that moment, Kaito had no other choice. He wasn't retreating but trying to level up. Their conversation was overheard by Haruka, but Kaito managed to avoid suspicion, and Haruka still believed him. After school, Kaito and Sylphie hunted slimes until they had collected a lot of monster cores. Unexpectedly, they encountered a silver slime. After defeating it, Kaito found a rare demon Viscount card named Lucalia. Then, he used the card right away, but Lucalia attacked him and refused to follow his orders, leading to a fight. Fortunately, Kaito and Sylphie managed to defeat Lucalia. Now, she had to obey Kaito just like Sylphie. Soon after, Lucalia introduced herself confidently and immediately asked Kaito for food because she was hungry. However, Kaito felt she hadn't done any work yet, so he refused. To prove herself, Lucalia started defeating slimes on the second floor. Impressed, Kaito gave her a slime monster core as a reward. But Lucalia was still hungry and wanted more monster cores. Since his supply was running low, Kaito refused to give her any more. Annoyed, Lucalia suggested they go to the beach above the dungeon to hunt for food. Kaito refused and told her to be patient, especially since they all needed rest. At first, Lucalia didn't want to wait, eager to eat more monster cores. But Sylphie scolded her for being impatient and reminded her to obey Kaito, who meant well and wanted them to rest. In the end, Lucalia agreed to follow Kaito's orders and be patient. The next day, Kaito and his team entered the third floor of the dungeon and met some hellhound monsters. When Kaito tried to shoot a hellhound, he missed and ended up being chased by them. As things got dangerous, Sylphie used barrier magic to protect him. At the same time, Lucalia attacked the hellhounds with fire magic and defeated them. Afterward, Kaito gave one hellhound monster core to Lucalia, but she wanted more. Kaito refused because they were running low on cores. He promised that if they got more prey, Lucalia would get a bigger share. Later, Kaito and his team were attacked by a group of wild hogs. At that time, Kaito ordered Lucalia to use her Hellfire attack, but it failed, leaving Kaito to deal with the wild hogs. At first, Kaito's attacks didn't work, but he managed to hit the wild hog's head and defeat it. Lucalia then asked for the monster's magic core, which annoyed Kaito. After the hunt, Kaito thought about how to conquer the next floor. He overheard three girls talking about a party that worked well together and reached the sixth floor of the dungeon. Long story short, when Kaito returned to the dungeon, Lucalia was eager to collect magic cores, and Sylphie didn't want to be outdone by her. There, Kaito noticed Sylphie was acting strange. When he asked her about it, she didn't want to talk. After returning from the dungeon, Kaito saw an anime on TV. He was surprised to see the characters looked just like his two subordinates. Then, Kaito began to think about Sylphie's feelings and realized she might like Lucalia, who often opposed him. The next day, Kaito told Haruka about his problem and asked for her advice. Haruka suggested that Kaito talk directly to the person he was worried about. After school, Kaito went to the dungeon and called Sylphie. He asked her if she hated Lucalia. Sylphie said she didn't hate Lucalia. She was just feeling jealous because Kaito seemed to care more about Lucalia lately. Before, Kaito used to talk warmly with Sylphie, but now his attention was divided, which made her sad. Upon hearing that, Kaito promised to treat them both fairly as their master. When they started hunting, Kaito gave magic cores equally to both Lucalia and Sylphie. He also talked to Sylphie and praised her for her good work. He did the same with Lucalia, making both girls happy to be treated fairly. Soon after, they continued searching for monsters. Sylphie was very enthusiastic and defeated enemies quickly. She even leveled up and could now take down 3 monsters at once. But as Sylphie's strength increased, so did her appetite. So Kaito ended up with fewer monster cores from the hunt. Kaito was worried about how to collect enough monster cores to sell and buy better equipment. There, Hitsugaya suggested that Kaito move on to the 4th floor of the dungeon. However, Kaito had minimal equipment, and the monsters on the 4th floor were tougher than the ones before. When Kaito got home, he looked online for items to strengthen his attacks. Unfortunately, most of the items were very expensive, leaving him feeling helpless. Then, he decided he needed to collect more money by going back to the 1st floor of the dungeon. Unexpectedly, Kaito and his team found a very rare blue metal slime. Excited, he told Sylphie and Lucalia to catch it. They used a combination attack and quickly defeated the slime, turning it into an item. Soon after, Kaito picked up the item, which turned out to be a magic ball. Wanting to become stronger, he decided to use the magic item. After that, they continued hunting and encountered a hellhound. There, Kaito tested his new magic power but found it was still weak, which made him disappointed. That evening, he sat in the park, daydreaming. Soon, Haruka approached him and asked if they could go home together. Kaito thanked Haruka for her advice the day before. But then he noticed Haruka's expression changed, which surprised him. After they separated, Kaito suspected Haruka might be jealous because her expression was similar to Sylphie's when she was jealous. However, he decided not to dwell on it and went home. And the story will be continued. The moral lesson from that anime is never let your magical friends skip a meal, or they'll be hangrier than the monsters. Also, if your magic's as weak as Kaito's, maybe stick to video games instead.